Saturdays for Strategic Affairs. We at Rethink India felt to really commemorate these Saturdays devoted to the frontiers of strategic affairs. And Prabhat sir was all the more very keen to take the narrative further and forward, deep within the academicians, deep within the civilians per se. Because we at Rethink India feel that strategic affairs happens to be the convergence of the entire discourse of social sciences, the applied frontiers of uh, all the subjects of social sciences. We see them at play in this converged discipline of strategic affairs. So for our viewers, today we have been joined in by two great stalwarts. We have been interacting with veterans from, we started with Commodore Rai from the Indian Navy. We had Major General C.P. Singh Sahab, again from the Indian Army. And so today we have been joined by two academics, very interesting profiles. We have with us Dr. Manoj Kumar Panigrahi, who is currently the assistant professor at one of the India's premier institutions, which has evolved under the professorship of Professor Rajkumar, O.P. Jindal Global University. And his research interests include ethnic conflicts, foreign policy, cultural issues of Indo-Pacific countries. Professor Panigrahi teaches East Asian politics, and Taiwan-China relations. So quite heavy subjects Professor Panigrahi is involved in. And he has received the Best Scholarship Recipient Student Award from Taiwan's Ministry of Education into 2016 to 2020 because of his passion for sharing Indian culture at the grassroots level. So we welcome Professor Panigrahi to this strategic Saturdays over here. And we also have been joined in, the co-panelist today on this show is a young, dynamic lawyer by profession. Now you would say that, oh, strategic affairs is law. Yes, it is all about law, because international law is something which is so very vital. All the international conventions, all the strategic aspects, after all, you have to go and take lawyer Sharanam Gachami. That's what we have to do. And so we have Mr. Arpan Chakravarti, who holds a diploma degree in international diplomacy. And he graduated from Christ University, one of the other premier institutions of the country, in Bangalore. And he holds the position of Assistant Director Strategy at Alexis Group India. He is multilingual. We at Rethink India really commemorate multilingualism in a big way. And on the centenary of our former Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao, who could speak 17 languages, we kick-started the multilingualism challenge. So this is another hidden talent of one of our panelists. So we will invite P. Chakravarti Sahab to one of our sessions on multilingualism. And he has worked with the Ministry of External Affairs, Center for Land Warfare Studies, Indian Army think tank, Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, among others. So what an illustrious profile. So lawyers are not just those dark coat ones doing something very boring, which our youngsters feel. It really opens up this vistas, this I would say the glamorous vistas over there. So with this short background and today's theme, what our panelists have instructed they would be talking and discussing on, it is modern age political warfare in South Asia. Now, loaded terms goes over the head, but that's what the experts are for. And I would invite Prabhat sir to just invite and say a few words on the inaugural of this show, and then we will move on with our panelists. Prabhat sir.
Yes, sure. I would like to welcome Arpan as well as Dr. Panigrahi. So this will indeed be a wonderful session. We hope so. And the subject is really happy, no doubt. It is even in strategic affairs and defense covering for the last 7 years. This is also, I mean, this will also be an insightful session for me as well. So I would like to welcome the panelists now to discuss upon. So Raghav sir, please take ahead.
Surely. Sir, if you can give me the host this thing so I can share the presentation that I have made.
Okay, sure. I've done it. Yeah, please.
Okay, so very good evening to one and all present here. I am Arpan Chakravarti, and I'm a lawyer by profession and an assistant director for strategy at Alexis Group. First of all, let me say I'm very grateful, and let me thank Mr. Ghosh sir, who's the editor-in-chief of Strategic Affairs India, and Mr. Raghav Mittal sir, who is the editor of Rethink India, for giving us this opportunity. You know, for young scholars like us, this is a big opportunity. And this particular discourse on defense and strategic affair has been graced before me, have been graced by Commodore Ranjit Rai, who was the former director for naval intelligence, and Major General CP Singh, another decorated soldier of Indian Army. So I do believe I have a quite reputation to hold or to live up to right now, and I shall try to do justice for the opportunity which has been given to me today. Right. So let me start with this particular thinking that I have, is that the great military strategist Karl Clausewitz, he once famously noted that war is an extension of politics, but by other means. Mao Zedong undoubtedly took a page out of that particular quote which was been said by Clausewitz, and he methodically applied it to all the consideration of 4 different things that we will be talking about in today's session. So, first question that always comes in minds of people, right? What is political warfare? You know, so for that I will just show this particular diagram that I have, right? So, you know, this particular political warfare does apply to a lot of different places in particular situation that we have in India, whether it comes to strategy, whether it comes to leadership, whether it comes to coordination of various troops movement and deception and also lobbying. You know, it's first thing that at this point of time we believe that India is currently facing a wide range of non-state actors who employ different wide range of measures to coerce, influence, intimidate, or undermine our interest at home. So I do believe, in simple words, what we say that political warfare is a mixture of different elements, which is first diplomatic, political, economic, military intelligence, and information cyber warfare. So mostly, in simple words, what we say is it is a means to the end, right? To achieve any national objectives that that a country might have. And so why is this becoming relevant in this coming times? So this is the question that always comes up, right? Why are suddenly so many strategists have been continuously writing about it, talking about it? And this was particularly famous during the times of Cold War, during the rivalry between US and Russia, right? But now, why is it coming back into prominence? I think it is because of the rise of China at this point of time. And so that we also need to have an understanding of what is going on at this particular point of time. And we need to understand as to the why that we have to know, right? So for the first thing that particularly comes up is the economic or the Chinese debt traps, right? We cannot deny the fact at this point of time that China has risen, and it has risen to become an economic powerhouse, you know, and it lends loan to countries, and when they can't pay for it, they particularly take hold of their properties, right? And currently Pakistan is spiraling from it. Sri Lanka's Hambantota port have also been going through a lot of issues, right? So second, what happens comes up to be is the influence operation, which is affecting affecting the public harmony through propaganda, fake news, and all of these things, right? So influence operations, in simple words, what I can explain is it's a collection of tactical information, whether it comes to using it to disseminate propaganda in pursuit of a competitive advantage. I do believe that's what we call as influence operations. Third, what I do believe is the diplomatic arm of the particular political warfare. Firstly, right now, we currently saw that the recent row between India and EU countries, where they did not accept Covishield as part of the Green Pass in European Union. We had to resort to particular diplomatic solutions, right? So I do believe this becomes part of that. And fourth becomes the military intelligence as to influence the policy making of any country through press and other means. So what Iran is doing against US, what Russia is doing against Ukraine, what China does against Taiwan, which my fellow colleague Dr. Manoj will be explaining in detail, and what Pakistan does against India. I do believe these are the examples of what we are seeing at this point of time. So now I will explain. So this is my focus in this particular whole issue will be the influence operation part, and influence patterns that we are seeing at this point of time, right? So I will explain it in 4 different parts. First is finding the cracks. If you have to break down any society, you always have to find out as to what are the cracks in their society, in the particular socio-demographic economic divisions, which can collectively weaken the trust of a particular country, right? Second becomes building of the audiences, how this particular different narratives are going to affect the government and can dispose of the government, you know. And nowadays we have been seeing this continuously on Twitter, the battle between between the government of India and the big social media websites, right? So there are 2 tactics which I will be talking in detail. First is influence the influencer, and second is cultivating of relationship with those who are receptive to narratives. Third, I would believe, is seeding of the narrative or alternate narrative, and how you can create disturbance through resistance to the policies like fake news, propaganda, sabotaging voices in media, and national news and counter narrative, you know. So these are the wrapping the narrative with truth, cultivating proxies through which news agenda are spreading. Deniability factor plays a very crucial role. Like for example, right now Russia, there were claims that Russia had been part of making changes in the 2016 elections, in the US elections. So we always have to take care of all of these things, right? And last is, how do we prepare for it? So now it's going to be the interesting part. So I have done some analysis, and it would be really interesting. So the point is, how do we find how these things, how there are case studies. I will be explaining how things have been working out. First happens to be Delhi burns. You might have remembered 2019, right? When the government of India, they decided to bring a bill, a citizen bill, and this particular bill was called as the CAA, and there were certain particular groups of interest groups in India which protested against it, you know. And according to the protester, they were very discriminatory. The law is very discriminatory. They did not let the Supreme Court of India say that it is discriminatory or not, but they had that particular judgment. And because we in India, we do have freedom of speech, well, yes, we let them, had a conversation regarding it. So this particular thing led to three different narratives that were being built. First was under the umbrella of Delhi burns on Twitter, right? And this particular thing was led by 2 different camps. The first was India against CAA, and the other was India supports CAA, right? So recent study showed, which was conducted, it showed that there was a usage of bots to polarize sides, you know, and this clearly impacted the political conversation that we were having in India. And due to this, the whole online conversation is becoming heavily rigged. And when that happens, there's a problems, there arises to be problems in the society. So this is what which was the research which was being done. If there were 7,000 users who wrote about in the hashtag Delhi burns, there were 1,400 probable Twitter bots which were continuously writing against, second was India against CAA, right? There were if there are 86 in total, 86 total users who are tweeting about it, 57 are real, while on the other hand, 29 of them are probable Twitter bots. While on the other hand, India supports CA. 460 of them are probable bots, in total of 1159 bots. So what do we do to change this particular thing which is continuously happening, So one of the research which was been done in this particular study that was being conducted, one of the interesting thing which we found out were that some of the Twitter handles with high frequency had more than 50 tweets a day, and 87.5% of the retweets were from countries like Pakistan, UK, Turkey, UAE, and among the other foreign countries. So when we look into this map, the map of India, which has been used in this particular thing, in this particular research, was again misleading during the study. So why was this particular thing? Why was the study important, and why is it necessary to understand this particular issue at hand, right? This particular kind of things, they do try to weaken the collective trust in government institutions, right? They find out the crack, they attack on the crack, right? And at this point of time, we do know there are a lot of religious issues that go on in our country, right? What is the outcome or the learning at this point of time that we had understood from this thing, right? Influence operation came out to become very important and crucial role, played an important and a crucial role in this whole thing, and they have become more focused towards the policy outcome, policy part of the country, right? And only those who are related to that particular issue are becoming effective. So they have become the objective of having bots in this particular area is rigging the whole political talks that are going on Twitter. What is the government measures that we took, or what India took, right? From a protest, we saw center asked Twitter to block some certain amount of particular accounts which were being used by Khalistan or had Pakistan link behind it. Second was 308 Twitter handles from Pakistan were creating confusion over the tractor march that we had, apparently, which were farmers, right? Now, one more interesting part which I will be showcasing is, if you might have remembered, and if all of you might be on national, you might be looking at national news, right? This was one of the viral video that went that happened in Loni, in Ghaziabad, right? Loni assault case. It's considered as one of the most important example to our particular case in scenario, right? Over the circulation of this particular video, in which an elderly Muslim man claimed attack by some young man who forced him to chant Jai Shri Ram, right? And this particular thing, as I explained earlier, there are two methods of building a narrative: either by directly controlling a platform, or by cultivating relationship with people who might be receptive to particular narratives, right? Now the Ghaziabad police took case, right, and they booked 15. They booked 8 to different journalists and very influential people, who did not know that this particular truth, which this particular thing had a narrative to itself, as this was a fake incident which happened, right? And the Ghaziabad police later clarified that this particular information which was being shared was false. So this particular thing showcases only one thing, that hate is easy to sell, but truth isn't, right? So building of audience, I always do believe that if somebody is thinking alike, then if everybody is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking, right? So this is what happened. I got a chance to go through a lot of different people, different people, and due to my various people in my network, I got chance to talk to few people who were also part of secret information warfare machines, right? And this is how the British Army also does have its own soldiers. Like, they have soldiers who edit videos, record podcasts, and write viral posts, right? This is what I would call the age of information warfare, because uh, this is also one of the Harvard research which was been conducted, how the Chinese government fabricates social media posts for strategic distraction and not for engagement arguments, so this is my general understanding of the scenario, is that disinformation and deceptions have been part of a warfare, for thousands of years. But I do believe nothing new is happening right now. Earlier, information was being used to support important conventional operations that we do, like conventional combats, which we used to have information about. But now, information in itself has become a tool for warfare. You know, this particular Harvard paper that I was talking about, right? This particular thing had this research which was being done. 2 million people were being employed just to write social media posts. And we saw that these kinds of examples have been going on in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and various other countries, And when we look into this, our favorite neighbor, Pakistan, right? This uh, this is what I will be showcasing, and this is the how the ISPR, the propaganda machine of Pakistan, works, right? Just look at the views. I have highlighted all of them, right? From Article 370 to Kashmir to a lot of different other things, you know. And this kind of warfare is it really becomes difficult for us to navigate through it. And at this point of time, the propaganda that I just a minute, yeah. At this point of time, the only work of ISPR is propaganda, sharing fake news and narrative building in particular audiences in India. So I was going through one of the reports which specifically said that the target audience which they are talking about is in Jammu Kashmir, right? And they do go through it, they do listen to it, they do understand it, and they get affected by it. Burhan Wani became a sensation in Jammu and Kashmir due to this, because the age of social media has started, and and alternative narrative building has been done, and they have been doing it very constructively. And there's one more example that I was giving, is the Real Kashmir news handle of a CEO who was one of the prominent voices in Valley. His Twitter account was being blocked, or YouTube was being locked down. So when we look into all of these things, right, they were being hacked. And when we look into all of these things, we understand that something is going wrong and we need to counter these things. So one more thing that I was going through, and we found out this thing, which was an article which was 1 year old, right? So Mr. Donald Trump decided to visit India, and suddenly at that point of time, what happened was Delhi riots. Is it a mere coincidence, right? And so when we look into all of these things, we have to connect the dots. We have to understand that these things are going on in our country. One of the most important things, again, like when our prime minister of our country went to Bangladesh for a visit, right? There were 250 people who protested against him, and they also found out that it was also been backed by Pakistan, right? So we have to look into all of these things, that how they are funding, how they are planning, and we have to uncover those things, right? And when I look into all of these things, there's in political warfare, this particular new warfare poses a challenge not just to the military, but also to the social fabric of our country. And the point is that we aren't Russia or China or any other Islamic nation who rule their country by fear or penalty.
Mm.
We are a democratic country, and when we become democratic country, there is going to be dissent. There are going to be people who will be talking, right? And we have to listen to all of those things. We are the political leader, or the leadership is very much accountable to what a question is being posed in the media, right? So I do believe that at this point of time, we also have to look into all of these things. So one of the weaknesses, so this is the on the left side, just a minute, on the left side, I have showcased how the IDF, they run their influence operation campaigns. So if you have a chance, right, to all everyone, every participant who has come up, right, I would just say one thing, that if you have a chance to go through these particular Instagram profile of IDF, go through it. You will understand how narratives are being showcased and how it is been shared with truth, right? And now talking about the weaknesses that at this point of time that we have, and we have been continuously seeing these things, uh, social media manipulation, I cannot be stopped to a large extent due to no policy over it. At this point of time, we brought a policy wherein we wanted to stop particular people from tweeting, right? It created a lot of issues, and big tech companies, they do not budge, but
Mm.
they completely forget that it is the law of the land
Yep.
which proceeds over everything else, right? And not only the military or the intelligence forces are part of it, we have to carefully look at how ISPR has been campaign using its campaign methods. They have roped in Shafat Amanat Ali, a famous singer, folk singer, right, in those particular areas, and he has been asked to do propaganda videos. So you understand, so this is how the civilian engagement with military civilian ecosystem has been existing, and we have to understand that see, this is how things are going on right now.
Mhm.
So our funding on the part of the government think tanks at this point of time, I have been talking to a few people in a lot of think tanks that I have been part with. So it's very less in comparison to other private entities, and focus on the public relation part has to increase. If we want our narrative to go out, we have to understand this particular thing, that we have to increase our public relations. What are the opportunity costs that we have at this point of time, right? China's hostility in this particular scenario can lead New Delhi to play a very crucial role in Indo-Pacific, right? And with the formation of the Quad, I believe, so political warfare will be the key to winning on, I do believe, on all fronts, you know. And what are the recommendations that I do have, right? There needs to be a strategic cost effective approach to national defense, right? Because in in political warfare, offense beats defense, because by the time the adversaries they react, damage has already been done, right? And it is far easier to put out lies than to convince people that they are lies. So we have to understand, and we have to have an approach in that similar manner, because disinformation is very cheap. Debunking that disinformation is expensive for us, and it is very difficult for us to manage that, especially when you live in a democracy which is so culturally different, so different country like India, right? And we need to have an understanding that we need to have an effective war gaming even for information warfare, and how these particular things work in coordination with our political establishments, right? India is already doing India is already projecting a voice. But have you ever seen that particular post from New York Times, or from all of these newspapers from abroad, what they showcase? So this is where we need to project that this is what is our voice, this is our narrative. I don't even consider that it should be a narrative, it should be a voice to debunk what things which are probably wrong should be stopped, right? And now one of the suggestions that I did have was 77 brigade of the UK army. They are a counter propaganda unit, which involves social scientists, economic scientists, army reserves, and technocrats, right? These are not usual army people. They are specialists in their own field. They are data analysts. They are data scientists. They are behavior specialists, right? They understand psychology. They see how things are moving in particular scenario, and their only work is to monitor the social network of the country, so that a particular message is been delivered to particular kind of audience, right? There are particular kind of audience, like those are academic audience. For them, there has to be academic writing, but there are people who are not so academic, right? So for them, how to write in different vernacular languages is which is going to be a key for us to winning on all political fronts, right? uh, I think it was my mentor, Lieutenant General Ahluwalia, who coined an approach, that national outlook for national security is needed. And especially in a democracy like India, which is so huge, and different societies do interlink with each other, right? I always believe that where democracy prevails and where the leaders and the institutions are answerable, public opinions do play a very crucial role in national security of a country, right? And that's why India at this point of time does need an organized approach to dilute influence, and not only for because and fight those unconventional battles, and with proper communication between the political establishments that we have in our country. It shouldn't be like if the prime minister of our country is speaking something, some other minister comes up and he says something else, right? And the media decides to point out that particular thing, that see, this person from this particular party is saying this, right? So we need to have this particular approach, this particular way how we are going to make this work. And I think that is all from my side, and I would like to now give this platform or the podium to my colleague Dr. Manoj.
I think lovely. What a
Yeah.
passionate, illuminating presentation. I think Arpan sir has really made, and in just a few slides, he could really sensitize us on a very thorough framework. Thank you, Arpanji, for illuminating us in
That
such a
was really very insightful.
yeah. A national outlook for national security. I think
Essentially.
that is the buzzword. That is the takeaway from over here.
Correct.
And this is also, I would just like to butt in for a moment that this is where all the engineering meets the social science, all kind of semantic analysis, all kind of parsing, all kind of, because at times we need context to understand why we are studying this all, why these neural networks, why all this. So these are the applications of it, and that's where the top cerebrums, the top brains have to be put across and really create a defense for the country. And defense is not just ki banduk taan ke with a on the border. I think it's much more complex these days, and that is what. So maybe Dr. Panigrahi, his address on the issue.
And that too with the evolution of new warfare
Yes.
tools and all that.
Yes.
That is very necessary.
And Arpan sir has contextualized the entire happening of the last 18 months per se. The way the whole stuff गागर में सागर भर दिया है, बहुत ही सुंदरता से कि, and he has been very objective. मतलब there is no passion side, very data driven, very objective, and this is, I think, this is the kind of approach we actually require for ensuring sanity in our society.
And that too is supported by various case studies and all, what has been seen recently actually. So that is, yeah. Dr. Panigrahi, please go ahead.
पहले आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. I'm very glad, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है कि इस बोलने का मौका मिला मुझे. और आप कृपया मुझे शेयर करने का मौका देंगे.
आप शेयरिंग राइट सर. आपके पास है. आप कर पाएंगे या प्लीज गो अहेड.
अभी दिखाई दे रहा है?
Yes, perfect. Yeah. Okay, great.
So, thank you, everyone, and so I'll tell you why I'm very glad for this opportunity, and also thanks Arpan for a very well insight topic about India's current situation based on recent disinformation tactics by different factors and actors outside. Why I choose kind of going out of the way from the original first half. Why I choose this is, first of all, right now I'm based in Taiwan, where I was doing my PhD. I'm still here because of COVID. I couldn't fly back, and staying here for a long time, I realized that as I've been around at the grassroots level in Taiwan. I've traveled around extensively in the villages here and all. I realize that there is a lack of knowledge about India here, and whatever lack knowledge is there about India or per se about South Asia. For example, eating with our hands. We have our own reasons for eating with our hands, but the idea of people here is we eat with our hands because we don't have money to buy cutleries.
From the Indian perspective, and Dr. Panigrahi has taken it to the tiny Taiwanese shores and shown it from what the little country of Taiwan, and beautifully I could see the solutions what Taiwan is doing. And this is where the solutions probably our new IVNB minister and the new education minister can come into and learn from Taiwan. As we all say at Rethink India, that it goes on in our Rigvedic spirit that Ano Bhadra Krato Vishwantu Yataha. Let noble thoughts come to us from all directions, not the viruses, but the noble thoughts. So this media literacy part is quite striking, because because if we can give the tools to the young learners that how to triangulate a news information. If this info, I think this is one program where Indo-Taiwanese connect can really become truly well. Some learning what I'm getting from Dr. Panigrahi's presentation. And the second one, what comes to me is that India's checkmating China, perhaps using Taiwan, like Vietnam, we have a lot of relationships. But maybe this is my probably the question, that how the Indo-Taiwanese connect is at present, and how do you see it unfolding? How the Taiwanese desk at the Ministry of External Affairs looking at to see things, because Chinese nationalists have their roots there, and in order to checkmate this rising dragon, making all the challenges for everyone. So maybe a bit of it from an Indian perspective.
Yes, I'm sorry if I may speak a little bit, as I see. Okay, I'll also put up with Mr. Raja Kasim's thing as like, with Taiwan we don't have any official relations, but the thing is, after last year incident in May with China, some of our politicians, they put up the Taiwan flag and India flag together in front of Chinese embassy, and that created a big, huge and noise here in Taiwan. But again, we have been shy. Taiwanese government has, we cannot get into Taiwan as long as, I don't think, as long as US don't recognize Taiwan, we cannot get in.
Okay.
That's
Got it.
for sure.
Yeah, Arpanji, please. Yeah.
So I do believe that Taiwan and Tibet will be the bargaining chip that India will be having. As simple as this. If I will I'll put it in simple words. It's a bargaining chip, right? We have to understand that. And when we understand that, only then we have to understand how complex the politics gets at this point of time, right? And moreover, even though we may have our conversation with Taiwan or whatsoever, because nowadays I follow media a lot, and there has been think tanks who have been continuously talking that we need to engage with Taiwan. But there is a specific reason why we aren't engaging with Taiwan. And this is what it is. And I think Dr. Manoj will be able to explain it even better, because he has been on the ground. But like me, I am a hawk observer. And when I observe through that lens, this is what it is going to be.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Arpan as well, that this has been challenging. There is a lot of noise. I would say noise, not good noise, but it's a noise. But again, too much noise is also not good. So we have to realize the current situation on the ground, not only in Taiwan, but also in New Delhi, that we don't need too much noise. We need to do our thing by ourselves. And that's how, as a young scholar or young learner, I would say that I can say. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be happy to have, if anyone have any questions, or I think me and Arpan sir can take
I think
questions.
this has been answered almost. This is Prabhat. Yeah, this has been answered, but this is, I mean, my question is also almost similar. That after this India-China recent clashes, both the nations are coming close to each other more vigorously. That is okay. But I mean, in some sections of media, just going through the things that, correct me if I'm wrong, that Taiwanese people are being recruited as their, I mean, Chinese fighting force, a Chinese immediate fighting force against India. Is something in that.
Um, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't. I
On Taiwanese people, I mean, in our adversaries' land, can we rely on the people, on their people?
Taiwan consider itself as an independent nation from China, definitely. But there are a lot of Taiwanese though live in China for economic purposes, mostly for job-related purposes, and most of the foreign brides in Taiwan are around half of them are from China as well.
Okay.
So yes, and I'm not sure how much they have recruited Taiwanese to fight in to be in India. Also, like that part has not been explored from my side, so I cannot comment anything on that part.
Mm.
Yes. Okay.
So I think we come to a conclusion of this lovely session, quite illumining, and a lot of, because strategic affairs is an ever evolving field, and it all depends, as we say, that history, civics, geography, but most importantly economics. So we are still trying to cover up our 2 trillion economy and feed the 133 crore mouths, and the COVID pandemic has really hit us hard, and our GDP growth has been in the negative, and China has been quite on the offensive. And as Dr. Panigrahi says, that until or unless the US invests itself as the reigning superpower, and so India has to fall in line, because these are not something which are just emotional sentimentalism or superficial chatter alone. We can just go out, someone can put a flag or something like that, but these are big boys in the global ring. So so these are not like mohalle ki kushti nahi hai. It's a big thing, and a lot of lives and strategic affairs are at stakes. So we have to really understand, devour, go deeper into it, as Commodore Rai has given the whole Indo-Pacific thing. But to really fund Navy, we really need those taxation dollars, taxation money. Then CP Singh Sahab talked about the whole Indo-Pak and China theater. So first and the foremost, as an outcome of it all, and this has been the core purpose of this initiative, that let bacha, every Indian should be really attuned to these affairs rather than just the STEAM part of it all. Social sciences are equally glamorous as this strategic affairs for Saturdays talk about it, and the calculus, the geopolitical calculus is truly amazing. Like it's more complex than the chess game perhaps. So I think more discourses like these, and as Arpan Saab was also saying, that more think tanks, maybe the think tanks in our academia itself, if we start understanding it, if we start working towards it, it will really come a longer way. Because as we saw that nothing happens, it takes decades and decades for a smaller transition to happen. So thanks a lot, Dr. Panigrahi, for taking out time and speaking and giving such a wonderful illumination. I think two takeaways of learning, doing, probably these can be the write-ups. We will send it to the new INB minister, that have a media literacy program down to the schools, because the new education policy talks about that, and maybe they can learn from the Taiwanese part. There is nothing military about there. We're just training our young kids to decipher as to what is fake and what is real and how to go about it. And Arpan so beautifully has summarized the whole Twitter dangle which keeps on happening, and probably his framework can be put on again and again. Be objective, and the truth reveals it all. Thank you, Prabhat sir, for getting these wonderful speakers, and Strategic Affairs India, who has been the core partner in this all. And just a brief announcement that on the coming Kargil Victory Day, we would be commemorating that 22nd Kargil victory, which was quite important, and we would be giving away the Manohar Parikar Prashasti to a vast set of luminaries in the strategic affairs. So that will be on Monday, 26th of July. So we would be having our session next, Strategic Affairs, just to keep the rhythm and everything out. But that's a special program on the Kargil Victory Day. We'll be announcing the timelines are on and all shortly by tomorrow. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being with us. And we will continue this journey of empowering and enlightening the entire, I would say, the entire population out here, and all the objectives will be achieved. So we'll close over